Hello, welcome everyone to the Gauntlet here on Fightful Overbooked. I'm Jeremy Lambert, and today I am joined by the great, the lovely Garrett Kidney. Garrett, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I know I've told the WWE story a million times, but the first time we actually interacted was on Will's show, The Forbidden Door of Wrestling Media, Will Washington, when I popped on there. And we've talked on Twitter plenty, but this is our first like actual show together now.
Yeah, face to face, voice to voice, not just bashing in on me and Will's time.
I interrupt every week, and I'm pretty sure Will completely hates me, but he puts.
You're the Miley Cyrus of Will's show. You just come in like a wrecking ball.
That's a compliment. Miley Cyrus is great. I will not tolerate any Miley Cyrus slander. Garrett. Garrett, I invited you on to talk TNA, Impact Wrestling, and I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk Impact because I feel like all you do is talk about Impact, but you have kindly agreed to talk more Impact, and you told me, as long as it's like old stuff, I'm cool with it. We'll talk Impact and that. And it is old stuff. It is AJ Styles matches, singles matches throughout his TNA Impact Wrestling run. So here's how this works, Garrett. I got a list of about 12 AJ Styles singles matches. We'll do about 10 of them. I'll throw 2 out at you. You'll give me what you think is the best match of the 2. And that can be work rate, that can be story, that can be importance to his career, however you want to define the best match of the 2. And then you'll pick a winner, and then I'll throw another one at you, and we'll continue until we get through all of them. And then we'll crown a winner of the best AJ Styles singles match in his TNA run. You ready?
And I have not seen this list, so I'm just going to intervene at the end and say, actually, no, this really obscure match he had against like Tiger Mask on Impact, that's the one. It's the one that should have been there all along.
That's completely fine. That is completely fine. I should have curated the list with you, but I wanted to surprise.
I think it's more fun that it's like, yeah, I don't know what's on this list.
Let me start. Let's start with 2 last man standing matches. I knew AJ had a few. He had like 3 that are well regarded. I'm going to throw 2 at you right now. The first one, Bully Ray, Slammiversary 2011, Kurt Angle, Hard Justice 2008. Which one is the better match?
When you said 2 last man standing matches, the one that came into my head was the Daniels Destination X one.
That's on the list. Will we get to it? I don't know, but that is on the list.
So Hard Justice 08 versus Slammiversary 2011. Those are 2 very good matches for 2 very different reasons. Because like the Angle one is Styles and Angle doing a Styles and Angle match under last man standing setting. So it's very like high action, intensity, wild high spots, a top rope DDT for the finish, which is insane. Yes. And then the Bully one is completely different in that it's like big man bullying, it's in the name, the hell out of AJ, like hitting him with chops. AJ won't back down. AJ keeps firing up Bully. He won't back down. And the finish of that match is a finish I detested at the time. Because the finish is AJ does this huge dive off the rafters through a table. And as they're both being counted out, Bully just gives him a little kick. He like kicks him in the butt. AJ goes headfirst through the bottom of the announce desk, I guess. And he gets counted out. Bully wins. And I hated that because it's like, it's not a satisfying finish. But then you think about it, it's like, well, he's Bully Ray. The whole idea of the gimmick is that he's a bully. He's a fake tough man that like talks a big game, but is actually a bit of a dickhead who like can't do things the right way. So him winning the match really, really cheaply, despite having like talking this big game, is actually a kind of perfect finish. So that's the reason I'm going to pick Bully and AJ over AJ and Angle.
I didn't expect that one. I did not expect that at all.
You see, you gotta give like the peak of Bully's TNA run credit, in that like I know people have very mixed feelings about Bully Ray in the year 2022, but take this back 11 years ago, and that dude like utterly earned his main event singles run in TNA. Like he really did, breaking out from Devon, breaking out from like 15 years of being a tag team wrestler, and finally breaking out into being a proper real singles wrestler. He earned it. He was great. He was legitimately great.
You're right in that these are two different matches with two different styles from AJ. And the Kurt Angle match is very much just an AJ Kurt Angle match, and they're doing crazy stuff. Kurt does that senton that people like to gif on this one. Like Kurt is the wild man in this match, and yeah, the DDT off the top that comes with the finish is insane. And the story with Kurt's neck and everything, and then the aftermath where they stretch him out, AJ's like, fuck this, like I'm gonna brain buster you as well. The Bully Ray match is like top tier. AJ Styles just bumping his ass off and doing insane stuff to make Bully look like this monster and everything. So I prefer the Kurt Angle match, but AJ's performance in the Bully match might be even better just because I feel like he just carries a lot more of that with the way he is just bumping and selling for Bully. The finish, you make a good point of how you're viewing it. I still didn't like it. I still can't buy that finish. It still upset me.
Yeah, like it's deflating, but it is meant to be deflating. So like it did achieve its goal, but I can get why like you'd be like, all right, this match was these two like beating the living hell out of each other, and then like the air is let out of the balloon at the very end. And I can get why you wouldn't be like, especially watching in a vacuum now. Like fair enough, it makes a lot more sense in context in the story building to the Bully Ray character. Whereas now, if you just go back and like parachute in as a one-off match, it probably doesn't work as well as it did back then.
All right, so you're going Bully Ray and AJ over Kurt and AJ. That's an upset early, in my opinion.
Yeah, get out of here, Kurt. Got nothing on Bully.
There's about 30 Kurt Angle matches on this list, so and a lot. The next one on the list, Jerry Lynn, November 6, 2002, Impact or TNA, the weekly shows, NWA TNA. This was the 20th NWA TNA weekly show. This is when Lynn wins the X Division Championship from AJ against Bully Ray, last man standing. Which do you prefer?
Oh, is this going to be like the Bully Ray Miracle Run? like the problem with the AJ Jerry matches is they're all very good, but they did an absolute ton of them. So there's like 10 of them, and like the very best one is technically not even a singles match. It's like the last segment of the first X Division title match where him and Jerry Lynn just go 15 minutes balls to the wall, and it's amazing. So that's probably the peak of AJ and Jerry. And like, I don't think Jerry gets enough credit in general for helping AJ become AJ, because like one of the things you hear people say a lot is like TNA wasted AJ. It's like, nah, TNA helped AJ become AJ. Because if you look at AJ in 02, in that Jerry Lynn match, he is nowhere near the AJ Styles of like 2005, who was at that stage legitimately the best wrestler in the world. But it was by working with the likes of D'Lo Brown, with the likes of Raven, and especially with the likes of Jerry Lynn, took AJ to that next level, like filled in those gaps in AJ's game and made him legitimately one of the best wrestlers of all time. I think it's hard to compare an 02 AJ match to an 11 AJ match. I think AJ's just, he's a much more well-rounded, polished performer by 2011 than he is in this Jerry Lynn match in 02. So I'd still stick with Bully, but I cannot stress how important those Jerry Lynn matches were in the development of AJ Styles. So Bully wins again.
I will say that this is almost like a breakout match for AJ, because he had singles matches to this point. He was, champion, and he had the big triple threat matches and everything. But his singles matches in TNA to this point were like 12 minutes or so. And this one's just a hair over 20. It's like his longest singles match in TNA to date. And you do see, like you said, you start to see more of the growth of AJ. And it's not like evident in this match, but if you go back and you do watch this match and compare it to even his earlier, like his first match in TNA or his ROH stuff and everything, you start to see like little growth periods for AJ. And I do think this is the 20th TNA show. Like this is a little bit of a breakout for AJ. I think I'm with you. I think Bully is the better match, and it is a tough comparison. It's 10 years later. AJ just grew as a performer in those 10 years. But yeah, watch this AJ match compared to even just his first match in TNA, and you can just see sort of the differences. And working with a guy like Jerry Lynn will do that for you.
And it's interesting to see, like, this early in his TNA career, you might argue it was probably the wrong decision for him to be a heel. But for him to be like working heel against Jerry, against Amazing Red, even against Sean Waltman a little bit around this time, like he's not quite good enough to do it. But like you have to learn sometime, and that this is the period where he does learn.
All right, next one I'm going to throw at you is Bobby Roode, May 24th, Impact 2012. This is the Open Fight Night Challenge against Bully Ray, last man standing.
Oh, I love that Bobby Roode match because I love the story going in that it's like AJ was the longest reigning champion up until then. Roode was about to beat his record, so you have AJ against Roode for the title. Can AJ stop Roode from beating his record? And they had a couple of pay-per-view matches, AJ and Roode, that I don't think were as good as this one. I think this is easily their best match. It's a great TV match. It's like kicking off the era of live impacts during that summer against that Bully match, which is also great. I'm still leaning Bully, but I do love that Roode match.
That's fair. I mean, I've not seen the Roode match in a little while. I did love the story though, because Roode is ready to have his championship celebration with everything, and they ended up having it in the main event. It leads to Sting's return. And he's about to have the championship celebration because he's about to be the longest reigning champion. Here comes AJ to try to cut that off. And, AJ can't overcome. AJ is a little distracted throughout the match. You got Kazarian and Daniels there and
the
everything.
Claire Lynch story.
and then Roode picks up the victory. But it is a good story. And Roode, I mean, we see what he is nowadays. He's not even on television nowadays. What he in TNA though, like he had a great run as champion, and AJ hit him and Roode capping this off with the main event segment here. It was a good match.
It's mad that Roode's not on TV, isn't it?
I think he's hurt. I think he posted on Instagram, I feel like this was a month ago, and I could be getting my stories mixed up, but that he underwent like some type of procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he did that. So I think that's why he's been out of action a little bit, because we know like Triple H likes him. I mean, Triple H made him NXT champion. So now with Triple H being back at the helm, you'd think he'd get on television at some point, and it just hasn't happened yet. But I think it's because he's hurt.
Yeah, even if you shove him down to NXT, where he can wrestle Braun Breaker and Von Wagner and teach them things because he's very experienced.
Yeah. And he loves the Glorious theme too. Like Triple H just put that on. It is. He'll just put him on TV just to get the Glorious theme going. All right, so you're going Bully Ray, man. Bully Ray,
Miracle Run.
Here. It is. All right, let's see what I can. All right, we're gonna throw Samoa Joe Sacrifice.
Oh, you're just like, let's pick one of the best matches in TNA history to boot Bully Ray off of the top. Yeah, it's the Joe match. It's like one of the top 5 matches in company history. It is like vicious and violent, and like every time Samoa Joe slaps AJ, it's just his face falls apart, and it's maybe not even the best AJ Joe match. That's how good these matches are, but. AJ Joe wins that on the landside. Get out of here, Bully, you sucker. Miracle Run's over.
Finally, the Bully Ray run is over. Joe came in undefeated, monster killer. This is the X Cup finals, and people are like, oh, it's AJ. Like maybe he's the one to finally stop Samoa Joe here. We get the ref bump at the end, the Daniels run in. I'm not saying that hurt the match, but you did mention another Samoa Joe match that we will get to a little bit later on. It's just definitely on this list. The AJ Joe matches. I was familiar with Joe through like ROH and everything, but watching him in this Impact run when he first comes in, it's just murdering dudes. And AJ, again, like I mentioned, his selling like in the Bully match. He's younger here, more athletic here, and the intensity and the way he's able to sell all of Joe's offense is just top tier stuff.
You could make an argument like that the best year of both AJ Styles and Samoa Joe's careers is 2005. And when they wrestled each other at what is arguably both their personal peaks, this is what you get. And as you said, like Joe he'd beaten Chris Sabin, he had beaten Sanjay, he had beaten like Delirious and Amazing Red. Some of the lower tier guys in the X Division. That Sabin match is really good. You should go back and watch that Sabin match. I think that match is underrated. But AJ's the first like real top guy he's wrestling, and you're like the first guy who can really properly take it to Joe credibly without the belief that Joe's just going to utterly murder them. And this match is just spectacular. It's great. AJ and Joe they never quite hit the heights that these 05 matches hit. And like WWE went to this well a ton. TNA went back to this well a ton. But like these 05 matches are spectacular.
You mentioned it earlier, like AJ's 05 is just absolutely incredible. There's like 4 matches just completely on this list. We're going to jump to 2009, though. October 15th, Impact, Kurt Angle. This is the time limit draw.
The Super Impact before Bound for
Yes.
Glory. This might be the best AJ Kurt match. It's either this or the January 4th Hulk Hogan Impact one. Both those are real good matches. I'd probably put the Joe match ahead of this Kurt match. Maybe not one of the other Kurt matches if you threw one of the other Kurt matches at me. But yeah, this Kurt match heading into the draw, it's basically to set the table for the match they would have on January 4th, which they gave away. It was meant to main event the pay-per-view in January, but then they're like, let's give it away for free on TV and then do it again on pay-per-view anyway, because it's TNA. But the TV match is naturally in TNA fashion better than the pay-per-view match. But this one, yeah, great match. 2 guys just going out there for 20 minutes, tearing the house down. Probably up until that point, maybe the best match or maybe the second best match in the history of the Impact Television show at that point.
The sense of urgency in the closing minutes, because it's a 20-minute time limit and they really pick it up in the final minutes. Too much stalling in the early portion of the match.
It's the classic, they're going 20 by how they wrestled the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. And that's about the only thing that hurts it. Otherwise, it's Kurt Angle, AJ Styles. Tough for those two to have a bad match in this time period. All right, so you're going Samoa Joe sacrifice though over that Kurt Angle match. All right, we're gonna throw it back a couple of years. Raven, August 27th, 2003, NWA TNA.
Raven as a work rate guy doesn't get enough credit for how good he was in 03. Like, he was the best wrestler in TNA in 03 in a company that did have the likes of, Chris Sabin and Jeff Jarrett and AJ Styles and AMW and Daniels and Skipper, like all those. And like, Raven was the best wrestler in the company, consistently having the best matches, consistently having the best stories. He should have won the belt that year from Jarrett, but what can you do? He probably shouldn't have won the belt here from AJ, and he didn't, which is fine. And this is a good match, very good match, but it's not on the tier of the Joe match.
This was another example of AJ just much like the Lynn match, where you could see the pieces of just storytelling coming in with AJ, and he's not fully reliant on just, hey, let me go out here and be athletic and do a bunch of cool spots. Because we had like the interference stuff with the new church and everything. Like, they were destined, or they didn't want Raven to win the title. So there were the storytelling elements there that, and like you said with Raven, never gonna be like he was never just going to be the high spot guys that we see a lot of nowadays, that people are critical of nowadays. But as far as just like layout when it comes to matches and understanding that this move means something in this spot, like Raven gets praised for that all the time, and you can see it in this match with AJ.
Yeah, there's a spot in this match where Slash tries to interfere with Powder, gets it knocked into his eyes, and then he does a whirly bird in AJ for a Raven near fall. And that Asylum crowd has never bought a near fall more than it has with that Raven one. And it's so good. Even if you just watch that one move from this match, the crowd lose their mind thinking Raven is winning the belt right then.
There is all right, so you're going Samoa Joe still from Sacrifice. There's a handful of Christopher Daniels matches from. Going Against All Odds, 2005, the Iron Man match against Joe, Sacrifice, 2005.
You went straight in for the best Daniels match as well, because they've had like 20 of them in company history, and all of them pretty much are good. And that's probably the best, because they even had two 30-minute Iron Man matches that year. There was the Against All Odds one and the Bound for Glory one. I think the Against All Odds one is the best match they've ever had. So I'll easily go that. Like the last minute of this match, where Daniels has AJ locked in the Koji clutch and AJ's bleeding out on the mat, and there's a minute left and he has to hold out and not tap out, and they go to the time limit draw, and then AJ wins in overtime. God, the visual of AJ, blood trickling down his forehead as Daniels squeezes him in the Koji clutch. Just tremendous pro wrestling.
I remember watching this match on like iPod video while I was in college, and just like
the ideal form to watch any wrestling.
Yes, I didn't want to like pay attention to class, so I was just watching this match on the iPod video. I agree with you that it's the best Daniels and Styles match. And I remember when they announced it, it's like 30-minute. People are like upset. It's like, wait, it's only 30 minutes, because we've been so conditioned to like 60-minute Ironman matches at this point, and people had just wanted a longer Daniels and Styles match. But I like 12 to 18 minutes is always my wheelhouse. So a 30-minute Ironman match is like cool by me, and it goes to the overtime and everything, and AJ wins. But it's a fantastic match.
I agree firmly with you on every wrestling match should be 12 to 18 minutes. All these people go on 30. It's like, we get it. You can wrestle for 30 minutes now. Cut 10 off it. It's a better match.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going Daniels, the Ironman match over Samoa Joe. You mentioned earlier. We got 4 more. I'm gonna throw another Daniels match at you here. The last man standing match from Destination X 2012.
See, like some of it feels like entitled to say some of these Styles and Daniels matches got a little spotty in later years to be like, oh, it's only like a very good match instead of one of the defining matches in company history. Because like they had the Final Resolution 2009 match, which is a very good match where Daniels challenged for the world title, and it's very good, but it's nothing special. And then the year before, they had the Destination X 2011 match, which is like it's one of those, it's technically very good, but the crowd wasn't there. They didn't have a great story going in, so it's just them. It's more of a technical exercise. Whereas, like, say what you will about the Claire Lynch story, and you can say a lot about the Claire Lynch story, but it at least gave this match, this last man standing match, a kind of bitter blood feud quality to it. That like Daniels has spent the entire summer tormenting AJ, inventing stories about him having an illicit child with Claire Lynch, and Dixie Carter was involved, and did he sleep with Dixie, and all that nonsense, and Serge Salinas knocking AJ out with the worst punch you'll ever see in your life, Dixie's husband. All led us to here, like the X Division pay-per-view, the X Division in the spotlight, with the 2 guys who not quite built the X Division, because Styles, Jerry Lynn, and Loki built the X Division, but the 2 guys who defined the X Division, along with Samoa Joe in 05, who really took the X Division to the next level, again here on the X Division Spotlight show, in a different kind of match than they've had. They had an I Quit match at Bound for Glory the year before, which also wasn't great. So when you get here, they have the proper like blood feud match with the great finish of the Styles Clash off the stage through a table. Yeah. It's still going to be, what do we have winning at the moment? I've forgotten.
The Iron Man match.
Iron Man, yes. We're going to stick with that being the best Daniels match with AJ. But this one is great. It might be their second best. I think I prefer it to the Bound for Glory Iron Man match.
What do you make of just Last Man Standing overall? Because I was kind of stunned to see. I knew he had a few in Impact. I was like, wait, he had like this many Last Man Standing blow-off matches, and now I feel like we see one every month on WWE television. Like, what do you make of the Last Man Standing stipulation?
Like, I think more often than not they get bogged down in the worst part, which is just counting. Yeah, it's not particularly interesting to just sit there and watch referees count. Like, you should only really do a proper count after a big move, like, because I think that's where the WWE matches fall into the trap of someone will just do like their finish and it'll be a count. It's like, no, stop it. At least do like a meaningful move that would feel like what a quote unquote near fall in a last man standing match. Whereas I think AJ got that, because I think all 3 of his last man standing matches are really good. Like great last man standing matches. And so let AJ do all these matches. He knows how to do them. He does. We're not just sitting there hearing the referee go 1, 2. Compelling television.
You're going. I'm not a fan of the Last Man Standing stipulation, and especially as much as WWE. I feel like they're doing one like every month now. I was like, can you knock it off, please? I mean, they're doing Last Woman Standing this weekend, so how that goes. So
it's always we don't want to pin somebody, so we'll have them knocked down for a 10 count. It's like, is that worse technically?
Yeah, they did the Texas Death Rules in the Angle match, where it's like, oh, you pin somebody and then it's a 10 count, so you're just double putting them under on that stuff. All right, you're going Daniels Iron Man match from Against All Odds. The big one at you, Samoa Joe Turning Point 2005.
Oh, like, for as good as the sacrifice match is, this match is even better. So you're like, what? How can you take these two and make it even more violent? It's like AJ has his lip kicked in and blood streaming down his
Yeah.
face. Like literally, Joe hits him so hard there's a hole in his lip. And there's a fun fact actually. If you look at the TNA Impact video game model, they took the like headshots and stuff around this time with the hole in his lip. So yeah, it's a PS3 game, so you probably don't want to zoom in on too much. But if you zoom in all the way on AJ's lip in that game, you see the hole in his lip from this match because that's when they took his headshots. So that's a fun fact. This match is maybe top 5 match in company history. If like the other Joe match is like top 10, this is top 5. It's that extra step above. It's that extra little bit of violent. You have probably that extra step of AJ might actually win again because he's champion going into this match as opposed to just, Joe as a guy. He's wrestling in a tournament final, fair enough, but he has a belt going in here, so he has something to lose. Also, they did the fun little thing like building up to this match where like AJ was the champion who started like picking fights with Joe, the challenger, which is a fun subversion of that trend as well. But the physicality of this match and the strikes and Mike Tenay just losing his mind on commentary at all like Samoa Joe just beating the unmerciful hell out of AJ. Phenomenal match, pardon the pun.
So you're going Joe turning point over the Iron Man match?
Yeah. Like the Iron Man match is also probably a top 10 match in company history, but not a top 5 match in company history, is it? Maybe even top 3. I think this might be the 3rd best match in TNA history.
All right, I want to get your other ones after this. I will say this right now. I think this is better than the triple threat match.
So do I. I don't even think, here's a spicy take for you. I don't even think the Unbreakable match is the best Styles Daniels Joe match.
Oh, which one?
I think the Turning Point 2009 match is better. So there's a spicy take for you. Like the Unbreakable match is undeniably more like historically significant.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a smoother, cleaner, better match, it's the Turning Point match. And also if you watch all of them, because they've had like in TNA, including the Hardcore War show that only airs on DVD that you have to dig out. If you watch all of them, you will actually see in that Turning Point match, they basically build off all of the previous matches. All of the spots they do in that Turning Point match are throwbacks to spots they did in a different match, but done differently. So like the Unbreakable match has the monkey flip, Daniels monkey flip Styles in the corner into a Rana on Joe. Whereas in the Turning Point match, Daniels does the monkey flip, but Joe power bombs the Styles onto Daniels then, again, playing back on a spot that was 4 years earlier at that stage. Really cool stuff. So yeah, there's my spicy take for you. The Turning Point match is better than the Unbreakable match.
I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, like prefer the rematches because there is the history to play off of. Like I like Michaels Taker 2 from WrestleMania over the first one. And people give me shit about this. Like, could
you're wrong.
Off the first one?
Give you shit because you're wrong.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. And Michael's career's on the line. He ruined it a few years later because he took $3 million, but his career's on the line in this match against the Streak. I like the second match better. I don't care.
To be fair, I was at WrestleMania 25, so there's a hefty amount of live bias there, but still.
I think the Turning Point match with Joe I think it's better than the triple threat matches. I'm curious to know what your top TNA matches are because I have a hard time thinking of one that's better than this one. It's legitimately one of my favorite matches of all time. Joe at Turning Point. This was the match where in the sacrifice match, I really got to know Joe a lot more separated from his ROH work. This one, like the intensity, like the fire that AJ has. And you're right, when his lip gets caved in, that just brings out another side of AJ, like just the overall work. And there was the fact that you thought AJ, this might be the end for Joe, like his undefeated streak is going to end because AJ, much like he was in the sacrifice match, he was the guy in this division. It's like, well, maybe they don't put the title on him here, but oh man, both of these guys were so good at this time, and especially during this match. All right, I'm gonna throw two more at you. You mentioned it earlier. Kurt Angle, January 4th, the return of the Monday Night Wars.
Like this match, like Styles and Angle, like Styles and Daniels, have had a lot of matches. I think they've had like 18 televised matches in TNA history, and Daniels I think is somewhere in the 20s. So they've had a lot of matches in this company, and I think this is the best of them because like this January 4th crowd, like that show's insane and nonsense for a lot of reasons, but that crowd, like they were bought in. They were like, we're going to war, baby, and this is our brand. So like they were losing their mind at everything Angle and Styles did. And unlike the draw we mentioned earlier, like where there was a little slower pace, they just went balls to the wall. They're like kicking out of Styles clashes and angle slams before like the first commercial break in this match. They're like, let's just go for it. This is like the biggest audience in TNA history, probably one of the most watched matches in TNA history. And they went out there and delivered. They delivered a Kurt Angle versus AJ Styles match, like exactly what you would picture that in your head. This is it, and it's the best version of it. But Joe is still better. Like that match, it doesn't have the again, it feels entitled to say it was just an Angle Styles match, but it was just an Angle Styles match as opposed to that Joe and Styles match, which had an intensity and a physicality a level above.
I think the historical impact on the January 4th show, maybe even for the wrong reasons, because this is the return of the Monday Night Wars, and that show hadn't been that great. Like coming up to this match, I mean, the opening was just botched with the Steel Asylum and Homicide's hanging there and everything. People popped for Jeff Hardy and everything, but like that show was all over the place, and Hogan and all these people out there, and then like we finally got just a pure classic. This is wrestling. We are wrestling TNA Impact main event. And, AJ and Kurt went out there and did their thing, and it was great. And you're right that the crowd was just losing their mind for everything. I think in part they're losing their mind for everything. It's like, oh, finally we're getting this wrestling match, this great wrestling match on this wrestling show. Like this is what we've been waiting for. And so I think historically, and you mentioned like it might be the most watched match in Impact history. Like historically, that puts it, that gives it a little bit of boost as far as pure just like match, the Joe match. As I said, I think it's like top one for me in Impact history.
It'd be interesting to actually go back and look at the quarter hours on the show, because like one of the matches on the show is probably the most watched match in Impact history. It's probably whatever match was either side of the Hulk Hogan debut. So there was like ODB and Tara, and I think Awesome Kong and Hamada against Taylor Wilde, and no, it was Taylor Wilde and Hamada against Awesome Kong and Surya, whatever the combination of that was. One of those matches is probably it, but it's certainly up there, the Styles Angle match. Because like the Hogan audience, I think, peaked over 3 million when Hogan was on screen, which is insane to think now. Like 3 million people watching a TNA Impact segment is a lot more than what Raw or SmackDown in 2022. But we live in different times.
All right, last one. Abyss locked down the cage match against Turning Point with Joe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that Abyss match with all my heart. It feels so mean to say the Joe match is better, because it is. But that Abyss match, again, it's probably like the better, like if you put this head to head with the Bully match, I think it's the most interesting like contrast, because they're both AJ small man working against the big man who beats the living hell out of him. And the big man in the case of the 05 match is Abyss, who is better than Bully. And like this is the best match of Abyss's career. Nothing else Abyss ever did came close to this. Not that Abyss is bad. It's not like the Kurt Angle Ken Anderson lockdown match where it's like Ken Anderson's not a good wrestler, but that is somehow like one of the best matches in TNA history. That's a quandary will never work out how that just happened. That's apparently how good Kurt Angle is. But this is like the peak of Abyss again in the Styles 05, which I think, as you mentioned, I think with 3 or 4 matches we've talked about has been in that 05, because that is like his best year. Every month on pay-per-view, great match, because like the Ultimate X match of the month before, or in January, the Iron Man match in February, another Ultimate X match in March, this match in April, the Jarrett title match in May, the King of the Mountain in June, the Sean Waltman match in July, which is very underrated, then Joe in August, Styles, Daniels, Joe in September, Daniels in October, PD in November, which is also an underrated match. That's Styles and PD match. And then Joe in December. Like every month, Styles delivered absolute bangers. And here he is again in the main event of the first lockdown, the main event of the first all steel cage match pay-per-view against Abyss for number 1 contendership, which he ends up going on to win the title. It's the Joe match still, But this Abyss match it's fantastic if you've never seen it. Like the opening spot of this match is Styles jumps out of the cage and then they brawl around ringside for a while doing some cool stuff where Styles does like a forearm out off the stands. And then Abyss swings the cage door at AJ's face and it just takes his head off. Like there's no if, buts, or maybes about it. It takes the man's head off and it's insane. That match is fantastic.
AJ Styles, I mean, for my money, one of the top performers of all time. And you really see it, especially when he's in there against like a bigger guy who look, Abyss should not be discredited, but people always want to discredit for some reason bigger guys because they're not giftable. But when he's in there against these guys where he could just bump his ass off for them, I will always say the Roman Reigns matches when he faced AJ. Like Roman, like everyone was against them. It was like, oh fuck, here we go. Roman Reigns is the champion. Don't want this, not having it. And then I guess it was Extreme Rules, but the title defense he had against AJ, where AJ just makes him look like a monster because he's just bumping like crazy for him, and all of Roman's offense looks good. And you know, you go back a few years when AJ had less bumps on the bump guard, was more athletic and everything. He always just made these guys look so good in these matches. And that's taking nothing away from Roman, who I think was great then and is great now. Take nothing away from Abyss, Bully, any of these guys. But when you're in there with someone like AJ, who can just make all of your offense look credible and believable, like that is one of the high marks of AJ Styles' just in-ring ability to me, is just how good he made everybody else look by selling their offense.
Yeah, I was watching the other day. It was just a Styles and Roderick Strong 5-minute TV match from 04, from October 04. And like, it's an AJ enhancement match. He's in there with Roddy, who's not a known factor, especially in TNA at that stage. He's a job guy. He's there to lose to AJ. And AJ takes one of his backbreakers, like $1 million. It's like, this is like Roddy's enhancement talent here, and AJ's in there making this enhancement guy look the best he's ever looked on television. And that's just what AJ does. And you see him develop from 02 to 04. Like by 04, by the summer of 04, he's AJ. And you see it. You see like the swagger, you see the pep in his step, you see the confidence, you see the AJ Styles of it all. And yeah, I think a lot of it does go back to that ability to bring you in, to make you think any move that man takes is death. Whether it's a Roderick Strong chop or backbreaker or an Abyss press slam or a Samoa Joe slap and kick, which part of that is his willingness to probably just be slapped in the face. That's pro wrestling, baby. He's the best wrestler in TNA history. He's maybe the best wrestler of all time. He's certainly one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And I like even before the WWE run, there was like, because we talk about the TNA stink and people don't give like the work people did in TNA the credit it probably deserves. And AJ probably, like, coming out of TNA, you know, in like 2014, wouldn't have been considered like an all-time great, and he was at that stage. And it took the New Japan run and then like particularly the first couple of years of the WWE run to really cement that position for him. But he was in that. I've been shouting since like 2012 that this guy's an all-time great. So yeah, get on my level.
AJ was one of the first guys. Him and Danielson were the first guys that made me like fall in love with wrestling again after like WCW went under, and then there was the run WWE had, and then it got very mundane and like boring and everything. And then finally like ROH and TNA and everything comes along, and I just loved everything AJ did from that time period. I always point out there's this match against Low Key in like 01 that is just completely underrated. And I don't know how many people have seen it. I remember watching it again, my iPod video. I just watched this match and I was like, AJ Styles is great. Like, again, pardon the pun, phenomenal. Like, he was so good. And then I would check out all of his other stuff, and yeah, his Impact run and the stuff he did with ROH. Him and Danielson were just guys that made me like fall in love with wrestling again during that time period where I was just kind of out on WWE. And I've just always been a fan of AJ ever since that stuff. And I was happy he finally made it to WWE and has had the run that he's had thus far with them. Because it has, like, you're right. Like, I think on his Impact TNA stuff alone, all-time great wrestler. But he probably didn't get that credit because of how it ended and how he was treated over the last few years. And people just thought, oh, yeah, he wasn't treated very good. It's like, nah, like look at this list of matches he had. He was always, for the most part, like in a top position, wrestling the top guys and everything. And it did take like the New Japan stuff and the WWE stuff for everyone to realize, oh yeah, AJ Styles, great, all time great. He's been that guy.
And it does annoy me every time you see it way more often than you should, that people say TNA didn't know what they had with AJ Styles. And it's like, pal, he was their first X Division champion. He was their first tag team champion, and he won the world title within year one. He was a Triple Crown champion within the first year of the company. They damn well knew what they had in AJ Styles, and they knew it from the very beginning. He was the first person the company ever signed to a contract. It's like, yes, him. He's our guy, AJ Styles. Come on. And again, as I said earlier, like because for the "You've Got to Be Kidding Me" podcast, cheap plug, McFoley would be proud. We just finished the Asylum era. We just finished all the way up to September 04, going through TNA history, and you see AJ become AJ in that time. You see him go from like great wrestler, raw potential, doesn't have it all put together, to by the time you leave those Asylum days, those Nashville pay-per-views, he's put it all together. He's AJ Styles, and you see that development happen over the course of 2 years through those matches with, as I said, Jerry Lynn, Jeff Jarrett, Raven, D'Lo Brown, all those like experienced hands. He wrestled Dusty Rhodes twice, once in an NWA World Title match. Like those are the kind of matches. Like we've talked about maybe 10, 12 matches here, and you could like justifiably include literally dozens more, and we're only talking singles matches as well, so you're not talking tag team matches with Christopher Daniels against LAX or tag team matches with Kurt Angle against Bad Influence. You're not talking any of that. Like this TNA knew what they had. They got a lot out of AJ. Like if you were to do a best of AJ Styles compilation that like included every match it should be included, it would be like an 8 DVD set.
I definitely think they knew what they had. It was just he almost outgrew it by the end of things, because Impact had by that point was falling on the downswing with everything, and AJ he kind of just done everything in the company. And so once you like reach that point, it is just good to like, okay, go away for a bit, come back maybe and figure it out. Like they tried to re-sign him when he went to WWE. Like that was the thing, is like they knew they wanted him. They knew how good he was. It was just things didn't work out at that point. But look, there's going to be misses with any company, right? Like Roman Reigns, like, oh, they don't know what they had with Roman Reigns. WWE has pushed Roman Reigns to the moon for years. They know what they have with Roman Reigns. It's just a matter of how you.
Yeah, they just didn't know how to get it out of him.
Right. It's just a matter of how you utilize them this whole time. But yeah, Impact definitely knew what they had with AJ, and they tried and they did their damnedest to make this guy the face of the company. Just by the end of it, it was just like, all right, he's done everything. And then now we're just kind of giving him maybe dumb shit that people don't always like when it comes to AJ.
It's funny you say by the end they're giving him dumb shit. Like I don't think anyone particularly liked the Lone Wolf AJ stuff at the time. You know, the heel AJ with the haircut. And that's the defining AJ now. That's the AJ he's been since 2013. It's the AJ he was in New Japan. It's the AJ he is in WWE. And it's so funny to me. It's like, no one liked that in 2013. No one liked that heel AJ run. No one was like, this is good stuff. And that's the AJ everyone knows and loves now. And like for me, like when I think AJ Styles, I'll always think 2005 AJ. But it's so funny to me, like the version of AJ that is like most well known, that like was in front of the largest audience in WWE, is that like weird emo broody haircut AJ, which it's never my AJ.
I think the Claire Lynch thing just sours people so much, and then the way like AJ kind of talks about it, at least the way he did in the past, of like why he left Impact and he didn't resign and everything, like gives people a different impression than what the actual run is, because he doesn't like outright like bury Impact and stuff, but he does say like, even he has said like, yeah, maybe they didn't know what they had or anything. And so I think his words are obviously going to carry a lot of weight when it comes to that stuff.
Listen, AJ, you're wrong.
Respond to you on Twitch if you could use that thing again. All right, so we had Bully Ray kicking it off, the Bully Ray Miracle Run, the last man standing match at Slammiversary, defeating Kurt Angle, last man standing, defeating Jerry Lynn, November 2002, and Bobby Roode, May 2012. Finally, Bully Ray was dethroned by Samoa Joe, Sacrifice 2005, and that match also beat Kurt Angle from Impact, October 2009, and Raven, August 2003. The Daniels Iron Man match at Against All Odds 2005, defeating Joe at Sacrifice 05 and Daniels Last Man Standing at Destination X. And then Samoa Joe Turning Point 2005. closing things out by beating the Iron Man match at Against All Odds, Angle on January 4th, 2010, and the Abyss Cage match at Lockdown. All right, Garrett, 2 questions. First, what are some of like the underrated AJ matches that probably could have made this list because he's had a million great singles matches in Impact that you will just like, you'll go back and you just said you watched the enhancement match with Roderick Strong. Like, what are just some like hidden gem AJ matches that are like, maybe they don't get the credit they deserve and they're not going to be remembered as like greatest AJ matches of all time, but like, this is just a great AJ Styles match.
There's a few. There's one on Thanksgiving 2007, which is the Turkey Bowl finals of all things. It's a Styles, Sabin, Joe 3-way in the Turkey Bowl finals. Great match. The only the biggest downside of that match is that it's cut into like 4 ad breaks, which is a shame. It leaves a lot of match on the cutting room floor. But that match, phenomenal. Nobody remembers that match. It's fantastic. AJ, like he had a bunch of good matches, surprisingly good matches with Matt Morgan in the summer of 2009. Probably like Morgan's best match at TNA is probably the Angle Bound for Glory match, but like Matt Morgan's not very good, and AJ made him look good. So there's also that year he had a weird, like, I love 5-minute TV sprints. I think it's one of AJ's, like, he's such a good TV wrestler. I don't think he gets the credit for being a great TV wrestler that he deserves. Like, he had 2 TV matches on one episode of Impact in 2009 against Chris Sabin and against Doug Williams, and both of them are just like perfect pieces of 5-minute wrestling. Like, I think the 5-minute TV match is a bit of a lost art, sometimes for good reason, because sometimes you'd be like, well, I want more out of my AJ Styles Chris Sabin match than 5 minutes on television. But also, when they deliver like the perfect 5-minute TV match on television, what more could you ask for? And like, if you look at like a bunch of those like quick AJ matches on TV where he's just like doing sprints against guys, they're always just really enjoyable, really like digestible TV matches. Like, has a couple of good matches with Christian that no one ever talks about. But like he's every match, just put him on TV against anybody like remotely decent, and he'll have a good match. His tag team run with D'Lo that nobody remembers, but him and D'Lo were a great tag team. Those two rule together.
And then second question, top 3 Impact matches.
All right, so this can change on any given day. Like a Styles Daniels Joe match might shove its way in there. The Angle Lockdown match might against Mr. Anderson might shove its way in there. But as of right now, putting me on the spot, 3 Turning Point 05 against Samoa Joe, 2 the whole effing show, the Motor City Machine Guns against Beer Money, best 2 out of 3 falls, and 1 Triple X against AMW 6 Sides of Steel from Turning Point 04. It's putting me on the spot right now with the Skipper cage walk and the violent, bloody like mess, and the losing team disbands, and the fact that that's the defining tag feud. They've been feuding for the best part of 2 years, and they're finally settling their feud inside 6 Sides of Steel in a pay-per-view main eventing over Randy Savage. Kind of. Randy Savage was there. He did a move. That match is the best match in TNA history. Like that never changes for me. Like the rest of the spots in the top 5 and the order of the top 5 might change, but I'll forever insist that Triple X AMW match is the best match in TNA history.
I just looked to see if AJ had a match against Elix Skipper, and you'll know these things better than I will. But early on in the NWA TNA run, he did face Elix Skipper. Do you have any memories of this match?
I have a memory of one spot where Skipper was on the ropes and AJ knocked him off, and it looked like it absolutely killed Helix Skipper. But like that's like both AJ and Skipper were pretty raw then, so it's a pretty solid, decent match in an early TNA pay-per-view, but nothing special.
Yeah, it's from 2002, so it was very early into everything. Because I remember Elix Skipper, and I always thought just the world of just how talented he was, and just thought he was going to be like huge star. The cage walk is legitimately, when it comes to Impact memories, like I don't know if that's ever topped, and it probably still should be like replayed more on like Impact TV and just in general, because it's an all-time moment that he was able to pull that off.
It is like, if you were to think, what are the all-time high spots in wrestling, like the legit most insane moments in TNA history, that, or not even TNA history, wrestling history, like there's a lot of moves off cages, but like if you've never seen that cage walk, you might be thinking, oh, like a WWE cage, you know, where it's like you get the 2 feet up there of like steel girder, which is perfectly walkable. It's like, nope, this is like 2 inches wide. It's walking across for like 5 feet before Hurricane Rana and Chris Harris off a cage. It is like it still stands there as one of the craziest things to ever happen in a pro wrestling ring.
And you're right. The overall story to that match of the disbanding with the losing team, and like the overall match that happened before the cage walk is really excellent. Like, it's not just that cage walk. That's obviously the moment that stands out, but the overall just match and story of it is, I can see why it's your top match. I should go back and rewatch that, but I can definitely see why it's top match in Impact history. It was really good. Kai says the whisper in the wind off the cage is top spots.
That's pretty good. Also, the swanton from Jeff at Bound for Glory 2005 from like the very, very top of the Impact Zone. And he's done a few of those in WWE where it's like crash mat ones, which, like, fair enough. You don't do the crazy spot. Do it in the crash mat. You're fine. But doing it on like just abyss and a table with the margin for error on that from like legit 20, 30 feet in the air, that one was mad as well.
Eric says he's going to first AEW show tonight. I hope you have fun, Eric. I hope you have fun. You'll not see AJ Styles on this AEW show tonight. Or you might. Chris Jericho's facing a former ROH champion. Maybe AJ Styles just randomly shows up.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Garrett, AJ was tag and peer. They're not very clear on like world champion. Just says former ROH champion, so could easily be a peer or a tag team champion. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, Garrett, Jericho was very clear in last week, being like, not just world champion. So it's probably going to be someone who's not just world champion today.
Davey Richards strongly hinting that it's him.
I hope it's Davey. Davey, if he doesn't do Loki, I'm going to be devastated. I want that Jericho Loki match so much.
If it's Loki, imagine Loki showing up to this thing, going into business for himself on Jericho as well. Great.
Jericho and Loki shooting at each other live on television. That is pro wrestling at its finest. I want nothing more in my life than Loki being too stiff for Jericho, or refusing the job, or just going into business for himself, or just coming out randomly in his Hitman gear. All of the Loki things that Loki could do, I want them all.
It'd be great if it was Loki. Garrett, I appreciate you joining me. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Kidney, GARETTKIDNEY. You can see the spelling of my name on the screen over there. It's down there. There you go. It's always difficult to point at things while on screen. Yes. You can also listen if you'd like to hear more of the sound of my voice. I do have a TNA history podcast where me and my friend Liam Jones, we go through TNA history 1 month at a time. It's called You've Got to Be Kidding Me. Search that in your podcast platform of choice. A classic Don West quote, of course. We're all the way up to September 04. Good time to jump on. Our next episode will be Victory Road, the first monthly pay-per-view, with stuff like the Randy Savage debut and Jarrett and Hardy in a cage or in a ladder match, and the Hall of Nash debut and stuff like that. So, well, Hall was there before, but together it's the Outsiders, the Kings of Wrestling. You might remember them in their jumpsuits. Good era. So that's a good time to jump on. Search You've Got to Be Kidding Me podcast platform of choice. We have a bunch of clips on YouTube as well if you'd like to find highlights and stuff. So yeah, You've Got to Be Kidding Me, TNA history.
There you go. Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on here, running through some of the top AJ Styles matches, just being a wealth of Impact, TNA, and overall wrestling knowledge for all of our timelines. Follow Garrett. He's always tweeting. You're on the Bray Wyatt train now. You realize dumb shit just pops. That's how you got to enjoy this stuff, Garrett. That's how you got to enjoy this stuff. Guys, we appreciate you joining us here on Fightful Overbook. Check out all the content we have elsewhere on the channel. Go check out the latest episode of Tag Talk, or check out like non-wrestling stuff. SP3 and I talking basketball. We got more stuff coming this week, including either the debut of a new show tomorrow or the conclusion of the CM Punk series. One of the two will be running tomorrow, coexisting on Fridays, and then newsworthy on Saturday. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy Dynamite, Eric. Enjoy Dynamite, everybody. Enjoy the wrestling.